Good evening. What does poetry do in the world? That question is at the heart of my dissertation. But before beginning my PhD, the question I asked was different. I used to ask, what does this poem do to me? What about Emily Dickinson so often leaves me awestruck? Lines like, the soul has moments of escape when bursting all the doors, she dances abroad like a bomb. Such words are hard to forget. They ask to be learned by heart. And to have words inscribed upon your heart affects your relationship to language. It affects your relationship to yourself. Studying the ancient Greek philosophy of the care of the self helped me think through this. According to this philosophy, before being able to understand our places in the world, we must first cultivate ourselves through rigorous practices. My argument, then, is that lyric poetry can be understood as one of these practices, capable of transforming the practitioner and their relation to themselves and to the world. My question thus evolved, no longer just, what does this poem do to me, but what does poetry do in the world? To explore this, I chose three poets, John Keats, Charles Baudelaire, and Rainer Maria Rilke. But I knew my dissertation would be stronger if each chapter were a dialogue between a pair of poets. So I eventually established three pairings, each approaching poetry as a practice in the care of the self in a unique way. I paired William Wordsworth with John Keats and focused on their differing approaches to the poetic self. I placed Charles Baudelaire in dialogue with Emily Dickinson and considered how their work helped inaugurate modern poetry. And finally, I brought Rainer Maria Rilke and Jory Graham together, exploring their shared philosophical preoccupations relating to modernity. With the poets thus chosen, I set to work, and I eventually came to focus on language and attention as through lines for thinking of lyric poetry as a practice in the care of the self. Because poetry demands an engagement with language capable of affecting our very way of being in the world. And our way of being in the world is fundamentally shaped by attention. And poets often explore modes of attention, attempting to convey them in the language of their poetry, as John Keats does in three words, darkling, I listen. This is his quiet suggestion that we suspend judgment, that we slow down, that we simply listen. So what did all this poetry do to me? It transformed me. It provided possibilities of what it might mean to dwell poetically on earth. Hence the question, what does poetry do in the world? For a poem, far from being an isolated act of expression, is a unique event oriented toward truth, seeking encounter with another. This is why I argue that lyric poetry is a practice in the care of the self. Thank you.